Review. A gunman on the run. Police investigate a deadly shooting in Melbourne which sparked violent scenes. The government makes changes to student loan repayments to help graduates struggling with the cost of living. US presidential candidates return to key swing states in the final sprint before Tuesday's election. And soldiers deployed across eastern Spain to help clean up after flash floods killed more than 200 people. Hello and welcome to ABC News. I'm Melissa Mackay. Police have appealed for witnesses to a fatal shooting in Melbourne overnight. The gunman is still on the run, as Samantha Johnshaw reports.
Charged scenes last night here in North Melbourne after a man was shot dead and a fight broke out here on the edge of the city's CBD. Police say they received a number of calls around 3:15 this morning, all reporting that a man had been shot. They say the man died before police arrived. Detectives are unable to confirm how many shots were fired and are yet to make any arrests.
I acknowledge that the offenders have not yet been identified and arrested, all right? We are in the infancy of this investigation. There is nothing to suggest there is an ongoing immediate risk to the community or to others involved.
The situation here appeared to escalate overnight, with witnesses saying a number of people were at the scene and a fight broke out. There was a Halloween party at a nearby venue, but police were unable to confirm if either the victim or the offenders had been there earlier in the evening. Police have marked out quite a large crime scene here. It sprawls several intersections, and they are appealing to any witnesses to come forward if they have any information about what happened here last night.
The federal government has announced plans to change the student debt scheme, which could see borrowers save hundreds of dollars a year. Political reporter Nicole Hegarty has the details from Parliament House in Canberra.
Several changes are being proposed, and this is very much part of the federal government's increasing focus on cost of living as we grow ever closer to the next federal election due in May of next year. This particular package is the latest in a string of changes to the HECS system, and the government says it won't be the last change they seek either. By way of detail, firstly, this will reduce the size of repayments graduates have to make per year to chip away at their HECS or help debt. This will also see a move to a new system of calculating those repayments, which is referred to as a marginal repayment system. It will operate similarly to the income tax thresholds, where each person's repayment is calculated based on their income and is set at a certain rate per dollar over that threshold. Secondly, graduates won't have to start repaying their student loans until they begin to earn more. That's going to shift from $54,000 as in the minimum income needed before you have to start paying back. That's going to be increased to $67,000. These changes would come in from next year. The government seeking to introduce legislation which would implement those changes when Parliament in the new year, before Parliament as well. So before we go to the election, the Education Minister Jason Clare says this is good news for a lot of students, some 3 million, some of whom are doing it particularly tough.
Nobody will be worse off under this. It'll mean that everybody earning up to $180,000 a year will pay less every year in their student debt repayments. What this will do is help people who are just starting out, who've just finished uni, who've just finished TAFE, and have now got to pay the bills, pay the rent, or are saving for a mortgage, or they're trying to start a family. And this will just take a bit of the pressure off and help a lot of young Australians right across the country.
So, Nicole, how much could that save the average student?
They'll be in for a saving of $680 per year in terms of not having to pay that much off their loans. There still will be requirements to repay judged on income. For somebody who is earning $70,000 a year, they will see a reduction in the amount they have to repay in the order of $1,300. If a graduate is earning $80,000 a year, they'll have a reduction of $850. These changes apply to people earning up to $180,000 a year. And as I said, the government is planning on introducing these reforms to Parliament in the new year.
Nicole Haggerty at Parliament House there, thank you. And for more on this story, we're joined by Jack Thrower, who's an economist with the Australia Institute. Jack, welcome to ABC News.
It's great to be here.
Can you take us through your most recent research? You found that the average HECS help debt for people in their 20s has more than doubled in the past 20 years?
Yeah, that's right. So there's all sorts of statistics on the average HECS debt. And our findings is that the HECS debt for someone in their 20s has more than doubled, while inflation has only gone up. Well, total inflation has only gone up by about 62%. So essentially, when people's debts are just getting bigger. And the main cause of that, as far as we can tell, it has just been the skyrocketing cost of these degrees. So there's all these great changes that we're having around indexation and these repayment thresholds, which are definitely welcome and will help a lot of people. But while degrees remain so expensive, particularly for very popular courses like social sciences, humanities, things like that, which have been going up for some time, but particularly under the Morrison government, they introduced a new bill, and now those degrees can cost over $50,000 over a 3-year sort of social science degree, and a lot of degrees of those sorts.
So it's, 3 years to study the degree. How long then is it usually taking people to pay off their HECS help debts at the moment?
Well, the statistics, we can't really tell right now how long it will, we can only model it because people haven't paid off these debts right now. There are statistics that we've written about that are public, that it is about 9.9 years to repay a HECS debt, but those statistics aren't specific to these ballooning debts in certain fields, and they include all debts that have been repaid. So they're including historical debts that took less time to repay, and they're not including debts that people are incurring right now that will take a long, long time to repay. So it's likely to be well in excess of 9.9 years, which is the current average. Some of these, particularly with people taking time off work to raise families, we can model how long it'll take, but we can't say for sure. But it seems most likely that it'll take a long, long time.
So the government's plan that's announced today lifts that minimum repayment threshold from about $54,000 to $67,000 next financial year. Just how significant would that change be for graduates?
It's definitely significant. It will help a lot of people, and notably not just graduates. So another finding in our report was that the number of people that are both working, number of students aged 20 to 24 that are both working and studying full-time has grown exponentially. It's now, in 2022, it was 1 in 7. Last year, it was 1 in 6 students are also working full-time. And the previous threshold was not too high above the minimum full-time wage. So it's very possible that many students were working full-time, maybe in managerial positions like that, and already repaying their student debt before they even graduated. So both for those people and for graduates, these sorts of changes are definitely going to really help the amount of take-home pay that they're going to get when they're just either still studying or recently graduated. So it'll definitely help a lot of people with their day-to-day expenses.
Yeah, I guess that is the final question there, really. The government says that this change is designed to help graduates with cost of living pressures, which, as you say, have been skyrocketing. Do you think it will have that effect?
It definitely will. Notably, at least according to the reporting that I've seen, it's not going to come in until 2025, 26. So that cost of living relief won't be seen for a little bit. But it will definitely help, both the rising threshold and the fact that it's not going to affect your whole income. So previously, if you just sort of earned $55,000, well, currently, if you just earn $55,000, which is slightly above the threshold, then you have to pay a full $550 in additional HECS repayments. So for people on those low career and graduate salaries and people working full-time while they're studying, earning those sorts of incomes will definitely help.
Jack Thrower there, really appreciate your insights. Thank you.
Thanks so much.
Overseas, more than 200 people have now died in the Spanish floods in what's been described as Europe's worst weather disaster in 5 decades. Emergency crews have been combing through cars and abandoned buildings, searching for those still missing, as volunteers turn out in force to help in the massive cleanup.
3 days on from the destructive deluge, reinforcements are arriving. Volunteers armed with shovels and brooms stream into the disaster zone to lend a hand.
It's amazing. It's thousands of people coming from Valencia. It's like a big corridor of people. It's heartwarming.
Locals forced to get creative to get by. Dirty bottles plucked from the river can't afford to go to waste here, where everything is running out.
No matter how much help we get, it is not enough. We need much more help. And no matter how much help comes, this is not going to be fixed in a month or two.
The task is overwhelming. Entire towns have been ripped apart by the floodwaters, while help is yet to reach others that are completely cut off.
We haven't been through the worst part yet. Nothing can come through, no food, nothing. You need to walk 15 to 20 kilometres to buy some bread.
The devastation is everywhere. These cars were swept into a tunnel. Firefighters now combing through one by one, searching for the missing. Shock is giving way to mounting anger at how a disaster of this scale could unfold with so little warning.
There was no warning at all. I think that this caught everyone by surprise.
My wife and I don't want to live here anymore. It's already a nightmare. As soon as a bit of rain comes down, we're already checking our phones. You lose everything.
This was Australian Caroline Doyle's view. She'd been teaching an English class and rushed her students to safety.
We heard the boom of the doors being ripped off the house in front of us and the water just flooding in.
She says the cleanup is impossible to comprehend.
It felt like we were in a movie with special effects. I know that's awful to say, but that's the only thing that you can kind of use to describe it. It just seemed unbelievable.
And inconceivable from above too. This was the region 3 days ago. Now it's been completely transformed. Experts say human-induced climate change makes these disasters more likely and more severe. Soldiers have been sent in to join the swarms of volunteers as they begin a recovery mission, which could take years. Bridget Rollison, ABC News.
Israel has launched dozens of airstrikes across farming villages in northeastern Lebanon, killing at least 50 people. The Lebanese Health Ministry says scores more have been wounded. The latest violence in Lebanon and in Gaza comes against the backdrop of a renewed diplomatic push by the US's Biden administration to reach temporary ceasefire deals. Meanwhile, Israel's emergency services says 7 people have been injured in an overnight rocket attack on the town of Tyre, northeast of the city of Tel Aviv. An Australian Muay Thai fighter is in a coma in a Thai hospital after being found in a hotel room next to the body of his British friend. Police in Pattaya say they responded to a call from hotel staff that heard a man shouting for help. When they arrived, they found fellow boxer Joshua Goldstone dead and Australian Jason Tonkin intoxicated and panicking. Police say no signs of struggle have been detected, but say they have found cannabis, white powder and a small glass tube. No charges have been laid against Mr Tonkin, but Thai authorities plan to question him. A federal jury in the United States has convicted a former Kentucky police detective of using excessive force during a botched drug raid 4 years ago that left black woman Breonna Taylor dead. It's the first conviction of a Louisville police officer involved in the deadly raid. Officer Brett Hankerson fired 10 shots into Taylor's glass door and windows during the raid, with some shots flying into a next-door neighbour's apartment. The death of the 26-year-old woman, along with the May 2020 police killing of black man George Floyd in Minneapolis, sparked racial injustice protests across the US. With just 4 days until the US election, Donald Trump and Kamala Harris have returned to battleground states in America's Rust Belt as the race for the White House enters its final sprint. Our correspondent Elias Kluwer reports from outside a Trump rally in the swing state of Michigan.
There's two reasons why both presidential candidates are campaigning through the Rust Belt today: Wisconsin and Michigan, and the 25 electoral college votes on offer. You win both states and the pathway to become president becomes very wide. You lose them both, well, it just narrows in. Kamala Harris is currently campaigning across Lake Michigan in Wisconsin, and today Donald Trump is here in Warren, Michigan. We've seen thousands file in. We saw a sea of red caps, and Donald Trump will make about an hour and a half's worth of remarks. And there's no coincidence, or it's no accident, that he's here in Warren, Michigan. It's the old Detroit suburbs. Detroit, of course, a city built on the auto industry, and it's still a very important employer here. Now, that demographic has traditionally been heavily unionised and gravitated towards the Democratic Party, but Trump's team believes they're making significant headway with that key voting group. And we spoke to some of those quote-unquote blue-collar workers today who say they'll be voting for Donald Trump, and they believe many of their colleagues will also.
Because I've been doing an auto plant rally every week since Memorial Day at the end of May, and we've been talking to the UAW members as they come off their shift at Chrysler, GM, and Ford plants, and they're telling me that 65%, a solid 65%, are supporting Donald Trump. One of the main reasons is the Harris-Biden EV mandates, which will destroy our industry. Another reason is the fact that Kamala Harris was a co-sponsor of the Green New Deal legislation, which puts a deadline of 2035 to eliminate production of the internal combustion engine here in America. And that will destroy our industry.
But Trump's Midwest swing has been overshadowed by comments he made about former Republican Congresswoman Liz Cheney. In an interview with right-wing TV host Tucker Carlson, he said Ms. Cheney was a dumb person and a war hawk, really criticising her view on global politics. Let's have a listen to that, and also the rebuke of those comments by the Vice President Kamala Harris.
She's a radical war hawk. Let's put her with a rifle standing there with 9 barrels shooting at her, okay? Let's see how she feels about it. You know, when the guns are trained on her face.
This must be disqualifying. Anyone who wants to be president of the United States who uses that kind of violent rhetoric is clearly disqualified and unqualified to be president.
But we spoke to supporters of Donald Trump today who say they back his comments on Ms. Cheney, saying that she's part of the old Republican establishment that they currently reject, and they say they appreciate Donald Trump speaking his mind.
They've changed all of the things he said. They turned it around. He said, how would she like it if guns were pointed at her? He doesn't want to send people to war.
When he's elected, he'll take out retribution on people that disagree with him.
I wouldn't put anything past Trump.
Is that a good thing, though?
Yes. That's the type of leader we need.
It's a dictatorship.
He focuses. We put him in a position of power to make decisions, to make hard decisions, And that's what we're voting for. That's why we trust him. I would trust him a whole lot more than I would trust Kamala's decision, because she doesn't know what her decision is. One minute she's black, 1 minute she's Indian, 1 minute she's pro-choice, 1 minute she's pro-life, 1 minute she's Southern, 1 minute she's Northern. She just doesn't know what she is, but Trump always knows what he is.
Currently, Michigan is neck and neck. The pollsters don't know who will win, so we'll have to find out on Tuesday.
For more context to those comments by the former president about Liz Cheney, the ABC's Global Affairs editor John Lyons reports from Washington.
Just to clarify, Mr Trump wasn't talking about putting her in front of any sort of shooters or guns. He was saying that, calling her a war hawk and saying that, you know, her father, Dick Cheney, of course, the former Secretary of Defence, that he had sent Americans overseas to wars. One of the claims of Donald Trump is that he, during his 4 years of presidency, he never began a new war for the United States. So what he's essentially been saying is, what would it be like for her to have guns put in her face, that she's not really understanding what it's like to be an American soldier fighting in a foreign war. But we're in these final days of the campaign now. There is a lot of hostile rhetoric coming out from all sorts of sources, and I think over the next 3 or 4 days until this election, Tuesday, Wednesday your time, I think we're going to see things get even nastier.
A small Indigenous art centre in North Queensland is making an impact on the national and global art market. The Yeringan Art Centre's contemporary take on traditional crafts is also empowering elders and strengthening the community.
At an art centre in a North Queensland rainforest, artists are reinventing skills of their ancestors. Many are elders, coming to the craft later in life.
When I had the bypass done, I better slow up, you know what I mean?
One of the centre's specialties, the bagu, is an undeniably adorable take on a traditional fire-starting tool.
The children come up and say, oh, look at these little dolls, and you kind of have a little laugh and you go, no.
Originally wood, it's now ceramic and painted with striking colours and patterns.
The bugle is traditionally made in the form of a man, so they've kind of still maintained that same structure of the traditional tool.
One of those reviving lost art is Abe Moriata. He says weaving skills had declined in his community.
And I was really disappointed. The traditional basket that came from here is such an exquisite artefact.
He studied surviving baskets, visually deconstructing them to build technique.
This is what we got to get back to. It's been my thing, what drives me to sort of go back and get the best.
It's taken him to some special places and inspired others with the global art scene in their sights.
Get up there and out there, tell the world we are also Indigenous artists, but we are from the rainforest.
All the while keeping stories alive. Baz Raddick, ABC News.
Saya Deans was a rising star in Tasmanian basketball, playing at the highest levels in Australia and chasing his dreams in US college basketball. But last year, the 22-year-old suffered a heart attack. He's now overcome the near-death experience to share his love of the game with Tasmania's next generation. Jake Grant reports.
Ready, set, go!
Basketball is life for Saya Deans.
I love basketball, and I think at that time of my life, like basketball was, a major part of my identity.
The Launceston-born player has represented his state and country and was the first signing to the Tasmanian Jack Jumpers NBL team as a development player. Before playing a game, he was off to Florida to play college basketball in 2022.
It's sort of been like a long time dream of mine to play college basketball, so I guess I was really excited to leave and go over there.
He was very tunnel visioned, I guess, with his passion with it, and that was his plan A, and he only had a plan A.
That dream was cut short going into his second year.
I was having a really good summer. Probably my peak form of basketball that I'd ever been in by a long shot. But unfortunately, whilst playing pickup, I suffered a cardiac arrest, which I was very lucky to survive.
Sire had no pulse for 4 minutes and was in a coma for 24 hours.
I talked to the nurse and she said that we had to get there straight away, and he had a lot of swelling on his brain, and it was scary.
After months of treatment, he returned to Tasmania.
I think with everything that I've learned through this process is, that basketball isn't my identity, and there's so many other things that I enjoy about my life.
While his basketball dream is in recovery, Sire is using the opportunity to help others pursue theirs, running basketball clinics for young Tasmanians.
For me, just being able to give back and provide coaching and some guidance for some younger players is good.
For Sire, the door isn't completely shut on professional basketball. He's signed to a team in Denmark for the upcoming season.
I still have ambitions of, getting back into the NBL and playing in the NBL.
Bouncing back from adversity, Jake Grant, ABC News.
On the satellite, showers on the New South Wales coast are due to cool onshore winds, and a front is bringing brisk winds and showers to Western Australia's south. A broad high is keeping elsewhere pretty dry and confining heat to Western Australia's interior. Showers and storms continue in WA's north, the Northern Territory and Queensland's north and southeast due to troughs. Taking a look around the country, in Queensland, showers with warm temperatures are on the state's south, warm in the north, mostly cloudy in the northeast. To New South Wales and the ACT, it's mostly sunny and warm in the north with some cloudy conditions to the northwest. Mostly cloudy and clearing showers in southern Victoria with warm temperatures in the southeast. To Tasmania, wet and windy with cool conditions in the south, clearing showers in the north. In South Australia, cool temperatures in the south, central and west with sunny conditions in the southeast. Over to WA, mostly sunny across the state with hot temperatures in the northwest and showers in the northeast. And in the Northern Territory, sunny and very warm. Looking ahead to Monday's forecast for the capital cities, partly cloudy in Brisbane with light winds, partly cloudy and a chance of showers in Sydney, Canberra and Melbourne. Cloudy in Hobart, partly cloudy with a slight chance of a shower for Adelaide, sunny with light winds in Perth and mostly sunny with the chance of showers in Darwin. The Japanese cultural icon Hello Kitty has turned 50. The small white cat with a red bow and no mouth was designed in 1974 by artist Yuko Shimizu. Her face has appeared on television and merchandise worth billions of dollars. The character is ranked as the second highest grossing media franchise in the world, behind Pokemon, but ahead of Mickey Mouse and Star Wars. There's more on the ABC News app and on ABC iView. I'm Melissa Mackay. Coming up on the ABC News channel, America, are you okay?
An ecological renegade.